Hi, welcome to Clutter Bravado.
Yes, and it's the energy. It's not just about the stuff.
So we should probably just get into it, right?
Let's go.
Hello.
Bonjour.
How are you?
Very good.
Comment ça va?
Ouais?
Oui.
Tout va bien? Il fait beau. Un peu. Oh non. Je ne sais quoi.
Je ne sais quoi.
Un autre expresso.
Un autre? Autre?
Un autre.
Un autre?
Okay.
Un autre? Sometimes I can get my R's. Most of the time I can't. It's very hard. The French R.
The French are. It's like the. Well, in the H, the, in English for me, hugs,
Huh?
ha. It's just
Hugs.
not.
It's
Yeah,
just
we don't.
Uggs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't do
We
that.
give hugs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Do you want a hug? But then they came up with a shoe company. So I practiced,
Oh, yeah.
the hug for like 10 years. And then someone came up with a pair of
Uggs.
Ugg,
Yeah.
which was always the pair of hugs for me.
Yeah.
Very complicated.
Oh, do you own any Uggs? You don't. You never would.
No.
No. Me neither, actually. Believe it or not. I feel like, do you think that I'm an Ugg person?
No.
Thank you.
No.
Thank you.
But
I mean, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, but like, they were just never really my style.
yeah, never mind either.
Hmm. I also
Am I
don't wear
lying?
sweatpants.
Oh my, you don't
Personally.
own sweatpants?
I own one pair. I've owned them for a very long time. They're not that person. You know? I do have, like, right now I'm wearing, like, a really ripped up t-shirt that I, like, stole
But
from an
that's-
ex-boyfriend once. Yeah. That's where most of my good shirts come from. Yeah, when it comes to, like, cozy wear, I've never really had a ton of it. I just started collecting some crew necks, though. Some crew neck sweatshirts that have cool things on them.
I don't know. I have a confession, I think. And maybe we'll have him on that podcast, but I'm kind of fascinated by a brand.
Oh, I know who you're going to talk about. You've been, no offense, fangirling.
I know,
over
a
him.
little bit,
Yeah.
huh?
Yes,
It feels like it.
a little bit.
Yeah, that one golden thread.
Yes.
It's cool,
Golden
though.
thread.
Yeah.
It is really cool because it's like cozy.
It's cozy.
Everything's soft fabrics.
It's edgy.
But they're edgy.
Yeah.
They're like structured in a way that like doesn't look like you're being lazy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's really, the quality of the fabric is fantastic.
Yeah.
I did get a pair of t-shirts that,
You did.
yeah.
Are you going to start wearing t-shirts on the podcast?
No, I'm
Okay.
shy. Well, maybe.
Maybe.
I
thought about that like at first we're all like we're dressed up, we're wearing our best. And then after like 6 months of this, we'll probably start. I'll break out my crew neck sweatshirts collection. I have one that's bright yellow and it says written and directed by Quentin Tarantino. It's my favorite sweatshirt that I own. I'll just start wearing that. It would just stop. I'll just clash with the vibe here. You look so concerned when I said that. I won't. I promise. Okay? Don't.
No, you know what I was
I'm a
thinking
wild card.
actually?
I
It
know.
was another
yeah.
confession.
What's
I
that?
was just imagining you show up with a t-shirt or a sweatshirt with the photo of Tom Selleck on
Tom
in front,
Selleck?
in front.
I
We should do that. You have one?
I have one. but but it's not like a headshot. It's not like his face. I have like a really like borderline inappropriate, probably photoshopped body image of Tom Selleck
Yeah, no, we're not
in
doing
little
that.
briefs.
We're not doing that. So we're not doing that. The Quentin Tarantino, we can debate. This one, we're gonna just...
Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine. No, I actually very rarely will wear my Tom Selleck shirt unless I have a statement to make.
Right.
Which is usually that I think that more men need to look like Tom Selleck.
Right, 6'2".
1980s Tom Selleck is like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I agree with you. If we
But, like,
could, trust me, we would.
None of the men in my life, none of the men that I know, I've never met a man who looks like that. You know, I don't think that it's actually real. to be honest. Like my boyfriend doesn't look like that and I still find him so incredibly sexy, you know? So like, it's not a matter of like, this is what's...
So it's not like we all have to look like Tom Selleck.
No, you're fine.
Okay, good. Because there's no way.
No, it's fine. You're doing great.
All right. Okay.
All I'm saying is it would be cool if more men did look like Tom Selleck. For my own personal gain. We went off on a tangent there.
Yes.
That had nothing to do
and
with
I
anything.
don't know why that happened, but I've had this vision and it was just not comfortable. So I had to put it out there. So I'm
Okay.
glad that we went over that we can...
I will not wear my Tom Selleck t-shirt on the pod.
Perfect. We're not going to revisit that and we're going to stop talking about Tom Selleck.
But if any of you out there want to see my Tom Selleck t-shirt, you just let us know. clutterbravado@gmail.com.
No.
Okay, we need to catch up real quick. How you doing? You feeling all right?
Feeling okay?
Yeah?
Yeah. It's been warm and sunny as usual.
Yes.
Beautiful Southern California weather in the summer. Mm-hmm. For the ones who are watching from the East Coast, it's not raining here.
Yeah, not raining at all. It's really sunny and nice, actually.
Yeah, and we've had a very mild summer. The breeze has been beautiful.
True. Yeah.
We've been able to take... Yeah, it's been an incredible summer. So
I've been meaning, like, almost every summer, I like to go to the desert like one time, just to remind myself of how bad it could be. You know, but I love being in the desert in the summertime for like a day. If I'm getting out of the city, I'd much rather go to the mountains, hands down. I want to be up on a hill. I want to be in a forest. I don't want to be near anybody, but I do like being in the desert. Especially like in the summertime when you go outside and you're like, oh, the sun is right there. I could die at any moment. There's something that like really feels like it reinforces all the gratitude that I have for the life that I live in the place that I live, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I'm more like, a pool, the misters thingy.
Yeah, those are valuable.
A cold drink, a huge nap.
Yeah. I think it was 8 years ago. No, it was 9 years ago because it was right after I moved here. I went to Joshua Tree for the second time. First time was when I was like much younger. I visited out here. But I went out to Joshua Tree in August. I walked out of the house that I was staying in because I wanted a little sun. I was wearing a swimsuit and there was a pool but it was an above ground pool, like one of those that people just like build in their land at the Airbnb. And I reached my hand in, and it felt like I was reaching into a bathtub, like a hot bathtub. And I was like, oh, so the pool's not going to be helpful in this moment. And I stood out there, and I just remember closing my eyes and, like, sort of reaching my arms out, just, like, getting some sun, standing there. And it felt as if I was, like, experiencing radiation. Like... I could feel the sun damage. My like when you close your eyes and it gets dark, this was not the case. It was bright white. I was like, this is too bright. It is too bright outside. It's too much summer.
Yeah, it's too much summer.
But it's kind of neat.
Well, it's
kind of neat to experience. I like that I live so close to that.
Yeah.
And then I can leave it and I could go to the beach. Where the beach is, I feel like the beach is always 74 degrees.
Well, we're lucky here, yeah.
Yeah, it's nice. Sometimes I want it to be warmer. But it's always about 74.
Yeah.
Cloudy until about 2 p.m. Yeah.
Well, when was it? I went to the beach not that long ago. And what was fun, too, is all the surfing schools that are there.
Really?
Yeah, but thought that was cute. I mean...
It is cute.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah.
I almost thought that maybe I would...
Do you surf?
No.
Have you ever surfed?
So I went on a surfing... No. So friends of mine took me in the Bay Area. So cold, frightening. Mm-hmm. They put me on the surf and they were like, you'll see, it's fun. And, I kind of fought with the surf. I fought with the ocean. I fought with the waves. So no, now I'm looking at it here. I'm like, oh, okay. I probably can find an instructor and do that. Yeah. It'd be fun. It was fun to watch those people learn, and some of them were really good too.
Yeah.
It was cool.
I I surfed once. And I actually, in that one day, I was able to like press up and stand up. I stood up on a board on the water, which like I didn't think I was capable of. It was really cool.
That's impressive.
I did get a black eye during that experience.
Because you ran over another surfer, or did you just fall on your board?
As I was walking out, so I was borrowing a friend's like foam board, so it's big and soft. Luckily, it's big and soft. Because when I was walking out of the water, I thought that I was far enough away so that the waves couldn't still hit me from behind.
Oh.
But it did, and it took my board and launched it into the air. And it flipped, and it landed on my face. And it hit me like right on my cheek, like right on my orbital bone. I had a black eye. I haven't surfed since then.
Yeah.
Because all the stories that I heard after that of like one of the guys that I was surfing with is like, oh yeah, you see this scar across my face? I got it the same way. I'm like, cool. No, thank you. I'm fine.
That face.
Yeah, no, this is, hey, valuable.
Valuable.
To me. I don't know. I don't know if it's valuable to the world, but it's valuable to me. It means a lot to me.
Yeah.
I don't want to bust this up. Doing what? Playing around in the ocean.
I know with my luck, it would land on my nose. That thing is valuable to... No, it's not. It's just big.
I feel like you would probably have a good defense.
Yeah, I would break the board. Let's keep on going now. Let's go back to design because...
This is a design-based podcast. Hey, it's also about the mess and about the lifestyle. Okay, we just talked a lot about life, so I think that fits.
That fits.
But we do need to get back into design. So I'm actually going to quiz you on some stuff.
Oof.
Not quiz, just ask you things that I don't know.
No.
So first, we've talked in the past with previous guests about LA architecture. And so one of the questions that I have for you is, what do you consider to be one of the most defining architects in Los Angeles, or like a certain look or style, and who is behind it?
There are several, but for me, it's Richard Neutra is probably one that, he's, it's... The modern is at its excellence. And I don't know that there's that many, it's like, we had Le Corbusier in France, but he's up there. It's just, that architecture is fascinating to me. And he's one of a kind, and he belongs to, Southern Cal. And I think that we talked to Jimmy about it. And, I'm so glad that they make sure to save as many of his project as possible, because it's really special.
Yeah.
When you go on around the reservoir, there are some of his houses that are fantastic there.
Really?
Yeah, it's created it's really fantastic.
We need to go for a walk over there someday, because you've talked a lot about like Silver Lake architecture.
Yeah.
And I lived there for a while and I looked at it, but I knew nothing about it. So I'd be really curious to.
Yeah, we should do that and take photos, and we'll post them.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's a great idea.
I love it. But, that's also, I went with SIA, they did a driving tour of Silver Lake architecture that was fascinating. So hopefully they do that again, yeah.
I hope they do.
Yeah.
That would be great.
We'd go there and we can document it for the podcast. It was really fun to do.
That's really cool.
But, yeah. So that is probably my, Paul Williams. there is that
We
old...
went to a Paul Williams house, correct?
Yeah.
Design Miami.
Yeah. Design Miami, LA.
LA, yes. There was a beautiful Paul Williams house in Bel Air that we sort of walked through. And it gave me an idea of what that style was, but because the house is like mostly like gutted and I only got to see like some bones. But that's kind of how you can interact with
you see the
classic
elegance,
architecture.
It's like that period of time of Hollywood that's elegant, that's as a big of European influence, but
it does
at the same time has its own vibe, and I think that would be another architect that I look up to. I've been to a couple of those houses, and you see it. It's the scale is great. He managed to get that Southern California light.
It's true.
Which you saw in that house. It was really so. Yeah, those two.
Okay. Well, I feel like we've talked quite a bit.
Yeah.
We should probably get to our guest.
I'm excited because you've met her. You've spent some time with her, but she is passionate about art So she's passionate about her art. She's, in terms of photography, she knows a lot. She's passionate about it, but she's also passionate about other artists and the art world in general. And so it's going to be great for you because she's just enthusiastic about it.
We sat down with Melanie Pullen, photographer, incredible artist. She's worked in films and also film photography, digital photography. And in sitting down with her, she is such a magnificent person. She's so fun. She's so bubbly. She's so effervescent. I absolutely adore her. How did you meet her at first?
Well, she lives in the same building.
She does live. Yes, she lives in the building.
So that's how we met. We fell in love with our art. We obviously are lucky enough to have a few of her pieces to show here.
Yeah, and this piece behind me here, we have a couple throughout you have a couple throughout the rest of the space. They're gorgeous. This is from High Fashion Crime Scenes.
And there's a couple more that that we'll try to do something with her in our gallery. She has a space where she shows off her work, and it's really impressive. So we should try to go do a little bit of a follow-up interview with her up there.
We should.
We'll post that.
But in the meantime, we should get to the interview.
Super.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Clutter Bravado, and we are here with Melanie Pullen. How are you?
Great. Yeah? Thanks for having me.
We've talked about Melanie before on the podcast. You don't know about this, but we've talked about your work, specifically that this incredible piece in the background is yours.
It is, yeah.
It is. And a handful of other photographs around.
We're a huge fan of Melanie's work here.
Big fans.
Such an honor to be included with all of this. I mean, this your place is a piece of art, so I feel like I'm part of the great curation.
Yes, a big part.
A big part.
Yeah, you're like the biggest piece in this room and in the dining room as well. So, and a couple other ones around here. So, let's talk about your photography. First of all, when did you, like as a kid, were you like really into photography, or when did you start doing it?
So I started, the first time I picked up a camera and realized there was this power to shooting, I was 6 years old and I was sitting in my Greenwich Village apartment with my massively large family of like 20 or 30 New Yorkers screaming over one another and smoking. And I pulled out a Polaroid camera and I was like, freeze. And everybody froze and posed for a picture. And I, as a little girl, 6, 7 years old, realized, wow, there's a lot of power in this thing. Like, what is this?
So cool. Wow.
Yeah.
So your early Polaroid camera, and then how did that evolve?
So I remember saying around that time I wanted to be a photographer. Mm-hmm. My grandmother was working with, she was the photo editor at Audubon magazine, which is like the equivalent of National Geographic.
Yeah.
And, so at the time she was like this, she's still alive, but at the time she was working there, and incredible woman I looked up to. She was always on a deadline. She smoked a lot. She was very neurotic, but I was like really intrigued by her life, and she kind of was so sophisticated and glamorous, and so I started to really think about like this lifestyle and the people I'm surrounded with. I really like it, and I was always just in terms of art, and I obviously drawn to the art of it. Mm-hmm. But it was like a two-part thing. It was like it represented this kind of freedom, a little bit of this ability to, for a little girl, have like some control over an uncontrollable situation.
Yeah.
and then just realizing like the power you have to create within that. And so, yeah, I think that was like the first moment of my evolution. Into becoming a photographer.
Yeah, it's the craft and it's the lifestyle, and it's also telling stories using images.
Well, for me, and that again, like that goes back to my grandmother, and when I was a little older as a teenager, I've probably told you this story before, Laurent, but she was judging a big contest for the Natural History Museum in New York. And it was like all the great nature photographers and pictures of like owls and different animals that were just incredible. And I was going through the photos with her, and I was like, which one won this contest? And she pulls out a picture of that's just white, like nothing else. It's just a white picture. And I'm like, what is this? There's no animals. There's nothing. And she's like, if you look closely, there's these little footprints, and the you can see where the imprint of owl's wings were. And she goes, that picture tells a story. And it really, that moment formed everything I do and continues to form everything I do, because you're like, in any picture or piece of art I make, there's always a story within a story. So that's kind of
wow. Yeah. The work that I have seen most recently has been is it high fashion crime scene? So
that's a series I mean I still shoot and work with that, but the recent work is more the voyeur series.
Okay, yeah.
So it's been I went from the crime scenes, which was primarily women, and like, you know, where I purposely exploit women in the photos, but it's a commentary on society. You know, that's I'm just pointing out the obvious. And then the second series was a war series that was all men and exploring that, and then the unknown dangers. I actually did a big series of, I don't even think you've seen this, Laurent, but biochemical warfare, where I worked with a man doing microscopic photos of anthrax and various threats back in 2008. So I have these giant light boxes of bio warfare, because I saw that as like a future threat. And so I was dealing with like the masculine side, the feminine side, violence, and being a, you know, perpetrator, a victim, versus like war where we're going out. So, and then so everything is kind of touching upon these different things. And then I started to feel like, well, now we're in a different time where we're all voyeurs, and we're all looking at other people. We're all fascinated by these other lives. No matter where we are, we could be in a restaurant, and you see someone, you can find out everything about them in 2 minutes. Yeah. So but each photo kind of goes into the next, or each series goes. So that's the newer work.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. We have one hanging here.
Oh yeah, you too. Yeah. Right, exactly.
And some of them, and it's also, some of the scenes are very like quintessential LA in that work, which I really really love.
Oh, thank you. It has like, it's funny, I always feel like I have this noir quality, but I'm anything but noir. It's not black and white, it's color and very vibrant. But the LA streets, there's that like emptiness in LA, and capturing the lighting at a certain time. I think that's what kind of gives off that quintessential, you know, that like what you're saying, like the Los Angeles feel of the movies. There's that glamour, but it's dark and quiet.
And what I love too is that you have, I mean, so the story is one thing, that you're a magician at it, but also your technique is flawless, and you should talk about that, because it's, you know, when I look at them, it's just interesting. I mean, there's,
yeah, I mean, I've always, my early beginnings, I painted. My mother's a painter, and I grew up literally on scaffolds in New York, and like painting sides of buildings. And I don't have any of my paintings. I used to paint and then sell paint. They would just be gone instantly. I never photographed them, so I think when I moved into photography as a profession, I didn't I had no formal training, and I was just using my eye and the concept of color and shadows the way a painter would. And, you know, photography is the meaning of the word is painting with light.
Yeah.
So that's what I do, and I have to see it in my mind and figure out how to make it as somebody who is self-taught and working with creating a scene and a structure. I'm creating these versus a photographer that captures pictures. I create pictures. And so for me, it's always been like, I have to really plan it out. And like, even if I was shooting that building and that building was for a piece of my work, I would have to time it so the lighting was hitting a certain way, or I'd rent certain lights. And I never worked with strobe lighting because that, again, being self-taught and learning my own way, I can't see the light. So I can't paint with the light. So I use hot lights and I use, that type of lighting. So I've lit up entire buildings. And if I'm doing that, I'm lighting each part, or so I've even used the technique where you leave the shutter open and you literally paint it with a flashlight. Like some of the voyeur pieces, you wouldn't know that, but I'm actually painting the model with a flashlight, so I can get the movement of cars passing by, but then also freeze her in the frame.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's like very things look like they just happen, but they're very planned out and premeditated. I feel like that goes with the crime scene. Premeditated.
Yes. Wow. I love the painting with a flashlight over a model. That's like that's really creative.
Yeah.
That's a really cool way of executing and like getting exactly what you're looking for without using a strobe.
Yeah.
So creative.
When the LED light flashlights started coming out, I have like this whole arsenal of flashlights now. I collect flashlights, and I have super high powered ones I can like paint a mountain with. Like if I could, you could leave your shutter open and paint a mountain. It's that, do it over the course of, the entire night sky, so you can like really, people used to do that, and it's with digital, it's fun because you can really see it right away. But yeah, that's a fun way to do it. You can really manipulate things and kind of with the longer exposures.
Yeah. So when you're actually like doing the shoot, and since you said that you're someone who creates an image rather than just capturing it like some other photographers would, like what does the planning process look like for that? Are you like sketching something out for exactly what you want it to look like, or are you going to a place and like sort of going by what you see?
A lot of it, it's a little of everything. I have storyboarded out whole series and shoots, and often do that, and then try to fill in, like find the location that matches the concept, or occasionally, like for me, I always love, when I was first learning photography, it was film, and I didn't quite know what I was doing. So there was room for error, and a lot of times the magic happens in the mistakes. So sometimes I'll go to a place and then I leave room for change, because maybe exactly how you planned it isn't as good as some kind of little mistake or thing that, like little route that you take that's different. I think that's probably philosophical too. Like we could take that into a lot of aspects of our life.
Yeah.
But
it is so, that's the creative part, is that
yeah. Right.
And that's where it's, in be it in design. I mean, we've I think it's also like something that a lot of designers or artists are talking about, is that you need that room for error. You need that room that lets you be creative, that lets you be like, that odd fabric, that odd, moment, that you have to be open to that.
That's interesting you find that too, because that's like where a lot of the magic, like I can just imagine in your world, like going into a store filled with furniture, and then you're like, what is this fabric? And it's suddenly this element of surprise, but it's better.
Right.
And you're open to it, which there's such a mastery behind everything here, and that that makes sense. Like I'm sure some designers are just very closed, and maybe not designers, but like when you go to a big store,
Right.
they have their 5 fabrics, and every item is made from those 5 fabrics, and there's no other fabric you can choose.
Well, it's interesting because for us, for example, Kimberly still hand draws everything.
She does.
Oh
wow.
yeah, she hand draws everything.
She's so
because it's just like it's her vision. She can't, if you give her a rendering in a computer, it's like it's game over. She has to be creative. She has to be and some of it, you look at it, you're like, but you trust the process and it works, and so that's the creative part of. But yeah, she'll do that. I mean, she's surprised me because she's on a fabric, a pillow that you're like, you're crazy, and no, it's just this thing that she needs, and very. I mean, I see it similar for you. It's like it's that space where let's leave it for creativity. Because you can't plan everything. I mean, it's like I think that planning is important, but you plan everything, it's gonna fall flat.
Exactly. And you can get it close and get a feeling of like, okay, I know I'm making a sofa. I have to make a sofa. So that, right? But then within the boundary of it, there's like, where things can evolve or change or, With the photography, going back to that, when I was saying I really think there's just 2 types of photography. There's creating moments and capturing moments. So I think both forms of photography are unique in their own ways. And so, again, like going back to design, I'm sure there's elements where there's like a different style of creating, but it's just unique in its own way. Like, somebody might do something different. But to me, whenever I walk in here, there's a new masterpiece in here of design and things that surprise me. So I feel like I get the element of surprise just coming in here. Like this new piece that you made, I'm like, where did that come from? And that fabric, and it's wild, but it works and it's beautiful. And I've been lucky enough to know you for quite a while, and both you and Kimberly, and I've been noticing, it's funny, I've noticed the evolution in my own mind about design. When I first met you, you were so ahead of the curve, but in design, that I didn't understand it. I was like, what is all this? And now it's come full circle, and I'm like, you were light years ahead of like what's happening in the world right now, like what was happening at the time. Because I think when I met you, it was like the world was very about like minimalism, and everything was like, oh, what chair do you have from this mid-century designer? And it was like there was a handful of key pieces, and you were always, and I think you and Kimberly in this setting were mixing, like you would bring in these French masterpiece pieces, and then she designed something, and I was like, now the trend is going more that it's kind of caught up with you, where it's I feel like really good designers have even evolved since I met you, and I think people are making places that are more personable, that tell more of a story.
Yeah, but I think that the art is the same. Like everything has evolved a little bit towards something that's a lot more personal.
Yeah.
And a little bit more, there's less of that minimalist, place where we were, and now it's, people are like, okay, let's get, colors, but colors are personal. You can't, you have to have someone, you have to think about it, you have to see it, you have to, so it's like it makes everybody a little bit better and a little bit more interesting. I think it's a nice thing, and it's not because I've seen beautiful interiors that but they look like hotels. There was that trend of like everybody wanted to be like my house needs to look like a hotel, and now I think that we're moving away from that, and it's I mean, and like everything, I mean, interiors like fashion, we go through. I mean, God, I started and we had collectors of 18th century French or, British English furniture, or, those people had houses that looked like, it looked like an 18th century home. And, that's, for example, that's gone. I mean, there's, very, very, very few people that do that. So it's funny to see the evolution of design.
It's really interesting. And like, even I was at an auction house. I love auctions. Oh, yeah. So I was at one downtown, and this guy, you probably know who he is, the Australian guy. He was like, and this game table sold at an auction, 15 years ago for $200,000. I think I followed the game table. I think it sold for like $5,000. So it's like the tastes change so much. Yeah. But I feel like it's going back to like people who are hiring people to do their interiors, or there is more of a story being told for sure.
I think so.
Yeah, people got tired of that, like what you were saying, like that hotel feeling.
I think that we're starting to see. And then there's always, there are parts of it that it's like, antiques have gone down in value, so they're more attractive, or so it's, I think that there's a whole part of it that brings back, so now it's more, I think that we're going towards more eclectic environment, colors.
It'll be interesting to see where like AI takes us in everything, because now I feel like it's a tool and you play with it, but like even in terms of architecture or design, it kind of gives a little boost to it, and it does open up the imagination to like more layers of like, how can I make this more creative and add more in there's something. Are you finding that that's a good tool in your world? Or
I want to interject a little bit, because I had the opportunity to do this. The last designer that I was working for, she wanted to just explore that area, because there are a lot of other designers that were using it, again, like as a tool for inspiration. And that was our intention. And so I started putting together, like I was using like an AI generator that I feel like now is a little bit outdated, and this was only like maybe 6 years, it was in January, so it was like 8 months ago. As I was using it, I started to notice that all it's doing is pulling from other images. You'd put in like, I want to see a Parisian metropolitan apartment with like a contemporary or like modern, so whatever, you're like using these keywords throughout it, and then it's generating an image, and a lot of them ended up very similar. There were certain elements that, like, when it hears modern, that means that it cuts the corners off of this, it makes this a little bit rounder, it makes this a little bit bigger. And it helped me to sort of learn about like how you describe different elements of design. But as an inspirational tool, I found that the biggest thing it was missing was an understanding of how the space is used. Aesthetically, you can look at it and be like, this is actually a really neat idea, but it's never walked through a space before.
Interesting.
So it doesn't understand, like it might know that a table needs to be this far away from a couch, but it doesn't know why. It doesn't know what that table is there for, or even like what a table is. It just knows what it looks like.
That's interesting.
So so it was really fascinating to start, working with this, because like if you actually were to take an AI generated room and then you were to put it into a floor plan of like, this is where everything is, it doesn't have any intuitive use for someone who's using the space. Like if you're laying in your bed, why would you want to have a nightstand that's like farther than your arm's length away? No matter how big the room is, everything needs to be something that's accessible. Like this is for the purpose of putting something on. Why would you have it be an uneven or a slanted surface? And I came up with this thing. I did this on TikTok, by the way. I don't know if you're familiar with this. So there are a few different ways that you can identify an AI generated image. And because I was making them, I started being able to pick up on it. And so the rules that I came up with were count the fingers, find the letters, count how many things, ask yourself how, and ask yourself why. So first, the first one is just for if there are humans there. If you're counting fingers, the fingers are going to be wrong. There's never the correct
Hands
amount.
are horrible.
Hands and toes are messed up.
Yeah.
So like if you're wondering whether the image that you're looking at is an AI generated image, look for the fingers first if there are people in it. If there are no people in it, it's just interiors. Find the letters. So in anyone's home, you can look throughout here and you're going to find a book that will have a title on it, or you'll see something that has a label on it. Look at that thing in an image, and if you can't read it, it's very likely an AI generated image. If there are absolutely no books or letters or anything, why? Why is that?
Yeah.
So there was one image that I looked at that was a library. This is beautiful, beautiful room, like, you know, really rich wood, and the lighting was gorgeous. And I was trying to find the name of any book, and I couldn't.
Wow.
So I'm like, oh, there's no letters here. This is AI generated. Count how many things. AI loves to just like put pendant lights and recessed lights everywhere. So if you're looking at an AI generated image, look at the ceiling or count how many just things are around.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be too many of something. There's too many windows. There's, you know, too many. There's this one image that I have. It's like of a kitchen, and it's all pendant lights going across the island, and there are maybe 30 of them, and they're all just sticks coming from the ceiling. It doesn't make any sense. Ask yourself how and ask yourself why. So like how would this be put together? Is this actually a reasonable thing? How does this thing work? And then asking yourself why would a designer or a person have that in their space? And when you ask yourself those questions and actually look at an AI generated image, it makes it easier to separate from reality. But also it really relates to, I'm talking Lauren. But it relates so much with like when you're actually like wanting to get inspiration or like using an AI generated image for the purpose of furthering your work or your business. There are things that you can pick out from it. You can pick a color palette from an AI generated image, or maybe a material that you otherwise wouldn't have considered. It gives you the opportunity to do that. It's harder to get specificity out of it.
Yeah.
That's something that you just need to go to a person right now still, to really zero in on those things. But then not taking it too literally is so important, because you cannot just put up an image. There are so many AI generated images that are going out around the internet right now that people are thinking are real. So when you're working with a client who is seeing this absolutely impossible space and like, oh, well, I saw this on an AI image and I would love to create this. Then as a designer, you have to sit down with them and be like, listen, this is not real. This is actually like, this is completely impossible. This is what we can do though, in order to make that into a reality.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it becomes more of like a tool of inspiration versus it'll be interesting to see, because it's still so in its the beginning.
Yes.
I'll say that.
Yeah.
my speech impediment won't let me say that. But yeah, so but it will evolve into something more. But like for me, I'm on all the beta testers with Photoshop, so I use AI for retouching. And certain things, it's been great. Like it'll remove chords, but then it'll do something crazy, and you can't get it to understand. But then they'll come out with because I'm on the beta, they're coming out with new updates constantly. So then they'll do an update, and it's like, that's perfect now. Yeah. And it's like so fast.
Right. So it speeds up, but my question for you is that you have, your eye, I mean, you have a couple of years of using a camera. So your eye is trained. I mean, it's like, it goes fast. Your brain, you really have an idea of what you want, what, as an artist, what makes you click, right? But, so my feeling is that you look at that, is it really an inspiration, or is it just like, because it can give you, 150, I mean, it can give you 150. I see furniture, for example. You take one furniture, you describe it, it can give you 150 different things. Out of the 150, 149 are either infeasible or butt ugly. I mean, so it's like, at the end of the day, like for someone who knows, who's really an artist, I don't know how much time you save looking at 150 things that are not valid.
I don't look at
to try to find the one thing that you're like, oh, okay, I could
No, for me, I don't. Like, it hasn't been useful in that way for me at all. Like, I played a lot with it in the beginning, and then the keywords, and I can see it being good for certain things I do in the future. Like, you know, if I'm shooting someone, because I've been directing more, so if I'm shooting on a green screen, and like during the pandemic, I was directing all the time. We were renting locations and this and that. It gets these were pretty big budget shoots. It's expensive, like to rent a house in Malibu and shoot there for this job I was doing directing. It was like, it was $1 million a day for a shoot there. It's like insanity. So there will be a moment where you can shoot for certain things, like especially in directing, you'll shoot a person and you do a green screen, and then AI makes that easy, and you're working within your eye. And for certain things like that, I can see it being like a drop-in, where it makes, but I really, like, I mean, that's basically what miniatures, like, I've built cities out of miniature cities. We built Berlin for some of my shoots. Like,
oh, wow.
After the World War II Berlin, and it was like, took these artisans, 4 weeks to build the city, and then I had to light it, and I couldn't get it. So I think, like, now there will be artisans that fine-tune that, and then you drop it in, and it'll be really good. But I do think that in terms of, like, Instagram and different things, it's starting to ruin it.
Absolutely.
Because it's like the AI is infiltrating. And I can really tell, too. It's occasionally I'm fooled where I think it's a person, it's not. But, yeah, there's something, there's no soul.
Yeah.
So, and as we all know, soul is everything. Like,
yeah.
Soul music, soul food. Like, come on. So you gotta have, you can have something beautiful with no soul, and then there is a difference. Like, there will always be a difference. And that is, if you just have a beautiful thing with no soul, you have a mannequin.
Yeah.
Right.
The biggest issue that I have with AI is that I don't need AI to be creative for me. I feel like all of us artists are just desperate for the opportunity to create without all of the bureaucracy that goes into the process of doing it. I would rather AI do my taxes, figure out how to do all of my paperwork, make sure that everything is organized, like do all of that stuff. I would like to be the one who's writing the poem, who's painting, who's, like whatever the creative outlet is. Like, we just want to do that, you know? And I think that, using AI for editing has to be amazing, because that part is really tricky. But it's also like...
it's not that amazing.
Well, no.
It's still really hard.
Yeah.
Because it's like it'll drive you crazy.
Yeah.
You're like,
and sometimes it's easier to just do it yourself anyway. Yeah.
Because it still makes a lot of mistakes. Like you're saying, like the 10 things, and like even taking a chord out, it'll change the whole...
Yeah.
And for me, I'm blowing stuff up. There is the tangible side to what I do, like what you do. We're making real things, so we're not making something that you're going to see on Instagram forever. I'm making things that go into museums.
Yeah,
it's like so. When I blow it up to 10 feet, it has to look right, and sometimes I'm finding this last year, it can help me with a little tiny aspect of it if I'm lucky, because it's still a roll of the dice to get anything right in AI. And then I have to fine tune it to make sure it's perfect.
And I think that, I'm obviously French, old and grumpy, but so I'm always a little late on getting with the program, but I do believe that, like, for example, what we do on these podcasts, we're using something that's reasonably new, but it's to have a contact with someone, contact with an artist, contact with a designer. I am so for people going out to art galleries, stores, seeing stuff, talking to the artists, talking to the designers, having this personal relationship, because I think that that's where magic happens, is when when we talk, when we talk about your space, when, if I just send you photos of my sofa and you're like, yeah, okay, whereas we're working on, doing something for your gallery, that it's going to go further than if I just email you the sofa. I'd be like, yeah, that's what it is. So, see you. We have a relationship. We have something that, and I feel like AI. So for us, we are, we've been doing it for a while. We've been doing it for a while with paper and, stencils. We've been doing it for a while. So we have that knowledge. We have that passion. We have that eye. I feel like, I don't want AI to be like, oh, well, I can plug it into it. It's like writing.
Well,
Yeah, you can you can put like 3 things and then supposedly it's going to give you a poem.
Yeah.
No, there are poets. There are people that are poets.
Yeah.
They are born poets. They breathe poets. AI.
And most of them are working as baristas because nobody's paying them to write poetry.
for sure. But that's a different.
or they sold their .com company and they're like,
There's that. Yeah.
The fear is that AI is going to replace. People are going to take the easy road and then.
yeah, it's well. There's
like now social media where no one goes to see things in person, or people are not talking to each other. I have that fear that AI is going to take, which part of it could be good, but we're gonna take it and turn it into something that's.
I think
not
the good aspect of it is like what we're saying, like it's great for doing taxes, like those types of things, the things that like will allow us to be more creative. So if you think of it as a tool, I've been really excited about it. I know a lot of other artists are like, this is the end of. I'm like, no, maybe it's just because I know no one can make what I'm making as the tangible object. So I showed with like this great gallerist, at the time it was like that gallery was bigger than Gagosian. It was like, it's a legendary gallery. And I used to get him to ride bikes around with me in Silver Lake and do all these. We would go out and have drinks. We had a great time back in those days. But I said, I don't understand why so many artists don't do this. Like, what's the difference between me getting a big show like this and other artists? Like, I know a lot of artists, and he goes, you can offer people the biggest show in the world and the opportunity, but how many people show up to the door? And I always thought about that. I was like, that is the difference. Like, how many people make it? How many people follow through? So, AI or anything, like even college could be an example of this. Like, you could get the best grades in college and do all the best work there, but then are you going to deliver when, you need to at the back end? Like, I know I can make a museum show. I've done it a million times. I've done, shows around the world, and I show up and I have the art, and I will work for a year and not sleep to make that happen and shoot and do this, and I drive myself to the brink of insanity. But that's the difference. That's why there aren't that many people that actually. So AI is a tool for people that can do that, and it can be really fun for people who don't. But there's different fields. There's a gallery show, and then there's your goggles you put on.
Yeah.
Pretend you have a gallery show. It's like you will never have the hard work that goes into it, and the discipline and the days and years of no sleep, and so that it's like I do get excited about any new tools. Like, tools I was one of the last people to move into digital photography because I was so picky. I was still shooting. I think I bought my digital camera in 2013. Hasselblad had finally come out with a camera that I finally was like, okay, this I can work with. The chip is big enough. I can blow these up to like 10 feet tall, 15-foot pictures, and I can add film grain into it. I can like create something that looks like my work, not some weird digital thing. So I think that there's like going to be a moment where we figure out what we're doing with these things and how to make it, for me, tangible.
Yeah.
So, and I was recently just in Hartford, Connecticut, and there was a house there. I'd seen it on Zillow. Like, you know how we all, I feel like everybody during the pandemic, we would like what was it called? Doom scrolling through Zillow.
Yeah.
Like, I could live on a farm in New Zealand in a castle for $5 or whatever.
I was on cheap old houses every day.
Oh, yeah, me too.
I love it.
And we're in LA, and everybody's like, you know, I remember when they were quarantining Koreatown, and I'm like, I could be in the forest. And, but then, so I have these lists of places I want to see, and then I ended up in Hartford, Connecticut, like 2 weeks ago, and there's this architect, Cliff May, who I really like, and there's been this house on the market forever, and in pictures it's so beautiful. It's this beautiful Cliff May, ranch style, massive house, like what you got in Connecticut for like what you would buy here would be like a garage. You get you get like an indoor pool. You get acres. It's gorgeous. People are happy. But I went, and I was seriously like interested in this place. It needed a lot of work, more than I want to put into it or think that it's worth. But when I got there after looking at the pictures for like maybe a year, I was like, oh yeah, there's the smells, the feeling, so many things about it became like that. The pictures were just one very small aspect of the entire, the reality of it. And the reality of it was just, I'm glad I saw it, and that, it was interesting, but it didn't fill in the whole story until I had all those other things that I had to see to understand it.
You have to experience it.
I had to experience it, and it's so different.
So that actually leads into, towards the end of every interview that we have, I ask 3 questions, and I'm going to skip to the last one first because we're right there. But when you enter a space for the first time, what is the first thing that you notice?
That's a great question. When I enter a space for the first time, what is the first? I feel like there's just so many different spaces. So, for me, probably perspective.
Okay.
Like getting into like the perspective, the lines, color. I'm like, but then also the feeling. So again, going back to that, like, how do you feel in a space? Because I think you can have beautiful on paper spaces, but when you enter into it, it will have a very different feeling. But I notice like the sounds.
Yeah.
Like a floor, like an old place, the floor will be creaky, and you can feel the curvature of the room, like the house is settled there. And to me, that all those things are like the history of it. So smell is a really big thing. Like some places you go into and it can smell dusty or old or fresh and like new. Like there's just, everything has a story. So I'm just like, I think I overanalyze everything. So I'm sorry I gave so many answers.
No, it's great.
It's like all of it.
Yeah. No, that's
perfect.
It's like
everything. It's a story.
It's a story.
It's a story.
In your place, when I come here, I'm always noticing the fabrics. Like you'll see me in this video, like feeling. It's like so tangible in here.
Yeah, everything is like, yes.
Yeah, it's all different. Like everything is like such a. I feel like anyone seeing this should come over and feel the fabrics.
They should. We should just come over. Come hang out.
Yeah, come hang out. And also, And also,
it's not even my place to invite anyone into.
But please,
Come to Laurent's.
over.
Come
Yeah.
to Laurent's showroom. It's beautiful.
Laurent like will make you lunch and dessert
That's
and
true.
something delicious, so you
Yeah.
get the whole experience.
Yes. Well, you got the experience.
I know, I
But you
love
know
it.
what?
Thank you.
That lunchtime is magical for me.
Yeah.
It's just like that's a little luxury that I just love. Instead of just go and I'm eating a sandwich and that's stopping. I mean, it's partly because I'm French, old and grumpy that but
He needs to have a full belly or he gets a little grumpy.
But I need
yeah.
to. But it's part of the lifestyle,
Yeah.
and I'm glad that we had that time because that's where we share, we talk, we get to know each other,
Yeah.
and it's just fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Okay,
love
let's
it.
move on to
Okay.
our last two questions. We're running out of time a little bit. What is your favorite place in your home or favorite place that you've worked or shot? Like, you can pick one of the other or you can give us two examples.
Favorite place I've worked or shot or home. I think for me, well, the view from where I live, my home. I like to look outside. And again, there's like the voyeur aspect. There's a person that lives like, I don't know, 7 buildings down. And I guess they've lived there since I was married in this building, divorced in this building, had my son in the, everything's happened in this building. So there's a person that's in this building called the Gaylord down the street, way down there. And they have a big red living room. And from my view, I haven't seen the person, but I can see that room. And so
wow.
I just love the view. And
Yeah.
I love, it's very rear window. And I feel the city. I don't know the stories of the people inside the places, but you can, there's something so quiet and like, kind of like Gotham City. You're above it all and you're kind of looking at this urban. So that, and also going back to my favorite place that I've worked was probably my old place. When in my 20s, I lived in this, I rented part of this mansion in Silver Lake. And I had this view again, and I felt like I was above the city. So the views are very important to me.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I'm also very much a voyeur. I've lived in a very high building before. I was like on the 16th floor of a building, and being able to like look out and see the skyline over the other buildings is just amazing.
So
I love
nice.
it. Okay, so last question. What is the messiest place in your home?
Oh, the bathroom.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a woman thing or like I don't know.
Everything is everywhere.
Oh yeah, I'm just like this. I throw the makeup everywhere. I have cups of coffee in there I forgot about, or like everything. It's like where I do my hair, and it's just it's always been like that. And yeah, I'm always hiding my little bathroom. I'm like, don't go in there. It's a disaster. There's makeup everywhere. So
Oh, I love it. That's so rad. Thank you for your honesty. I appreciate it. And before we go, what are you working on now, and is there anything that you want to plug or promote that we can look forward to?
I mean, probably, and I don't remember what I could plug or promote, but I have more shows coming up. And, summer I kind of go into hibernation mode and just take my book around and start writing ideas. So I'm about to do some events at my studio, which are private versus the gallery. I'm doing a thing with the ballet coming up in the studio, some like performance art pieces. And then I have a new show coming out next year. You were at my show a few months ago.
Yeah.
So that was like a precursor to the new show.
Okay.
Because that was kind of recapping all my work and some leading into new work. So I have next year, probably around this time, October. September's a big month in New York, but in LA it's the worst. I've had openings here in September. It's hot.
Right. It's still
Yeah, you have to do. So I've learned October. So in October, it's in a year I'll have a new show.
Amazing.
So we'll have another podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we'll
I'm
have you on
plugging
next
out
year.
of here. You said plug,
Yeah.
so I'm plugging my future.
Yes, I love it. Well, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you
here.
so
You're
much.
such a delight.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm so
You
glad
too.
you came
Thank
all
you.
the way downstairs.
I know. I always get mixed looked up because I'm like, is it downstairs? Is it upstairs? Like, yeah.
But thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.